Hello to all. My name is Rotem Sol. I'm a certified physical therapist. I teach personal trainers and physiotherapists all around the world in all the subjects that have to do with physical exercise, with rehabilitation of the pelvic floor, neurological disorders, orthopedic surgeries, and etc. In these coming courses in English, I'm gonna teach physiotherapists about CVA and physical exercise after CVA. So this is just a little bit of the course I'm going to have next month. So I'm going to share the PowerPoint with you. This course is actually dealing with exercise as a rehabilitation tool for your patients with neurological disorders. So the aim is actually to identify the challenges of adjusting exercise for those individuals with acute or chronic neurological disorders. At first, we will understand the neurophysiological effect of exercise on those patients. How does it affect them in the acute phase, in the chronic phase? I will not talk much about the neurological, physiological changes themselves. I will talk about the effect of exercise on those neurophysiological changes. Then we're going to understand the effect of exercise on all the aspects of neurological impairments, such as fatigue, cognitive impairment, spasticity, and all that has to do with neurological impairment. And then I'll teach you practically how to build exercise programs for those individuals with neurological disorders. So let's go on. Let's first talk about the differences between physical activity and exercise. I know it's very vague. Like sometimes we use both of the terms to describe the same thing, but just to know that professionally, there is a big difference between physical activity and exercise. Actually, physical activity is every movement that you make that is carried out by the skeletal muscle that requires any kind of energy. It can be sitting, teaching, eating, walking, whatever. When we talk about exercise, so exercise is a type of physical activity which is more structured, more planned, more repetitive and intentional in order to either maintain in chronic phases of neurological disorders or even to improve while we do it mainly at the acute phase. It is also called physical fitness. So physical fitness and exercise are a type of physical activity, but they are more structured, planned, repetitive, and intentional. When we talk about exercise, I will talk a lot in this course about the RPE chart, the rate of perceived exertion. It can be either used in aerobic efforts or anaerobic ones. So just to describe how hard is the exercise for you. We use it with healthy subjects, and we also use it with people after neurological disorders such as CVA, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson disease. We even use it with pregnant women, so it's not unique to neurological disorders. We have many other ways to measure your exercise, the amount of exercise you do during the day. Not all of it is exercise. Some of it is physical activity. You probably know the pedometer, which measures the number of steps you make a day. There are many other things that can measure your pulse, measure your blood pressure. We have many, many ways to measure and to estimate how much physical activity you do and how much exercise you do. And it's very, very important. Okay, let's go on with that. What are the exact components of physical fitness? So we are going to talk about a few of them. Mostly cardiorespiratory endurance, muscular endurance, flexibility, muscular strength, and the body composition. Meaning, I'm going to talk about how physical fitness actually affects all those components together and each one of them apart in this specific course. So when you meet a person with a neurological disorder, first you have to actually set the goals according to the components of physical fitness. Meaning that if, for example, we have a person after a CVA and he has many risk factors like history, family history of stroke or of cardiovascular diseases. So we know that the specific improvement in cardiorespiratory endurance is very important for him. We also know that the muscular endurance is very important because he has a hard time walking for a long distance, more than 500 meters. So we can even set the goals according to the components of physical fitness. So what are the challenges? Because exercising with a neurological disorder, we know it's not the same as exercising when we don't have a neurological disorder. Meaning today we are talking about specific adjustments to specific needs, very specific needs. I can actually parallel it to being pregnant and doing the right adjustment, or in days where I don't feel it's my best day to exercise, so I make the modifications. So what are exactly the challenges that are specific for neurological disorders? So we'll talk about them. It's a very big subject to talk about, but it affects how do we choose the physical activity, because the main question that our patient will bring into our clinic is, I want to do exercise. I want to be more physically active during the day, but I don't know what to choose. I don't know what will be best for me, what's the optimal for me. So we are going to understand the challenges first, and it affects our clinical reasoning, because when we want to detect the challenges that that specific person is facing, we have to specifically ask for them. For example, do you feel weak? Do you feel you can't go on with doing something for more than 5, 10, 15 minutes? It can tell us something about his muscle strength or endurance. About motor control, do you control your movement? If you want to do it slowly, if you want to use eccentric contractions, such as going down the stairs, okay? Such as going in narrow places, in crowded places, it can tell us a lot about the person's motor control. How does he adjust his movement to different environments, different needs in the environments? Third thing is sensation, the superficial sensation. Some people experience neuropathy after or in neurological disorders. For example, burning, itches, exactly like neuropathic pain. Or do you feel allodynia, which means you don't even feel pain or sensation? So training without sensation would be very different. We know that sensation affects the motor control and both the muscle strength. What about cognition? We know that not all people after CVA experience cognitive impairments, but some of them do. Sometimes it has to do with motivation, attention. Sometimes it has to do with control on your behavior, memory, short-term memory, long-term memory, maybe cognitive movement memory. And so we have to know what we're dealing with, because sometimes there is a lot of pressure, cognitive pressure on that specific person. He feels like something is wrong with him. And when we ask him to do very complicated movements in our treatment or in our exercise session, so it might be too much for him, talking cognitively. So we have to make it easier for him. We have to make, like, the movement has to be in fractions, not at once. So we have to know what's exactly affecting his cognition. We can even use occupational therapists that they usually assess the cognitive stage of the patient. And then we can build the exercise program according to what they say. The fourth thing is balance and coordination. We know that when the cerebellum is affected, we can see a lot of problems with coordination between hands and feet, between what we think and what we want to do, or how much time it takes us to do it. Balancing, finding our center of gravity and going back to it when we're out of center of gravity. The last thing is proprioception, the deep sensation, my ability to know where exactly my joints, my muscles are located in space. It's very important. We know that many people with cognitive and neurological impairment having hard time locating their body parts. So if I don't really know where I'm putting my foot, so I will have to use my eyes in order to do that. And then I will have to flex my neck, and then I will have to flex my back because I keep on looking down. This is affected by your proprioception, by your ability to feel the deep sensation. We know the deep sensations go up from the joint through the spinal cord to the cerebellum, which is also interacting with our frontal lobe. So what are the parameters and evaluation that we do when we talk about exercise? So Marzetti was talking about it in 2017 when he talked about physical frailty. And he also determined the term sarcopenia. We know that sarcopenia is actually the deterioration in the sarcomere function in our body, the ability to gain muscle strength and muscle mass, which creates what he called physical frailty. Frailty is the inability to gain mass, muscle mass, to make the muscles work. It might be because of sensation, it might be because of cognitive reasons, we don't know. He talked generally about physical frailty that is created by sarcopenia. He also talked about the deterioration in bone mass and bone loss due to the fact that people are more sedentary and they have a lot of problems just performing the physical exercise or the exercise itself. So, and he also determined some parameters that can help us clinicians evaluate exercise, such as intensity, meaning how hard do you feel the exercise is for you? Do you feel it's hard immediately, or do you feel it's getting harder and harder only at the 10 last minute of your exercise? It depends, because I want to know when does he feel that the exercise is most intense in a matter of how he subjectively feels. The other thing is duration. How long can I be consistent with the physical exercise or exercise I'm doing? Like 5 minutes, like 15 minutes. And when I stop the exercise, why do I stop it? Because I'm tired, because I'm in pain, because I feel unconcentrated, because I feel like I'm distracted by other things. Frequency. How frequent does my body meet the physical exercise? Do I do it once a week when I go to my rehabilitation center? Do I have an app in my smartphone and I do it every day for 10 minutes? Do I have to split my exercise, like exercising 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening? Or can I do it like all at once? Or can I do it 3 times a week only because I feel so tired after I do it, so I can't do it more than 3 times a week. So the frequency can also affect the duration and the intensity. And the intensity itself can also affect the frequency, meaning there are crosstalks between those parameters and they can affect each other. Other things and other parameters that we talk about when we talk about motor learning, but also when we talk about exercise, is internal and external representations and focus. Do we need the external representations, or can we just use our internal representations? Sometimes, for example, with Parkinson and multiple sclerosis, we have to use the external cues, like move through this conus, put your legs right at the red dot. We keep on using the external representations because we see the patient and we can see that if he doesn't have those external representations, he's stuck. He gets stuck. The tempo of the exercise goes down. The motivation goes down. It's hard for him to plan the movement. So we have to decide which patient needs internal cues and representations, or if we use the external representations, can we move to internal representations? Because this is our goal. We don't want to keep on using external representations. We can use it as a tool at the beginning when our patient is new to exercise. But then when the time passes by, we want it to be more solid and be more internalized and less externalized. The last but not least thing is inner and outer motivation, meaning, does the patient need outer motivation in order to be consistent with exercise? Does he need to have a group for that, or a personal trainer, or a physical therapist? What kind of person will help him be consistent with physical exercise? Sometimes they don't want to train in a group. They don't want to be near people which are similar to them, that have also the neurological disability, because they feel it's less motivating them. They feel like they want to do it at home with a video or with a smartphone app, or personalized with a personal trainer or a physio at home. Do they need to do it outdoor in order to get motivation? Or do they have their inner motivation? They either, like you call it, self-discipline. So I don't know. You have to check it. You have to ask it. Sometimes they don't even know the answer. We have to do it in order to be sure. We have to practice. We have to exercise. We have to make the mistakes in order to determine what's the right intensity, what's the right duration, what's the right frequency, and is the patient is willing and able to use internal representations and cues, or does he need the external focus? And moreover, does he need to use the inner motivation? Is he disciplined? Is he motivated by himself? Or does he need any outer motivation to be happening for him? Last, before you sign up for this course, is what are the aims of exercise with neurological disorder? In other words, why do I need that? So we know that people after CVA, for example, are more likely to have more cardiovascular accidents, such as TIA, such as heart attacks, such as another CVA. Okay, so more than 50% of them will experience one of them at the next 2 years after CVA. So when we talk about exercise, we also talk about preventing the next cardiovascular accident or disease, prevention of secondary complications due to sedentary life. Yes, people after stroke experience more sedentary lifestyle. Maybe it's because they have a hard time doing simple house chores, walking for short distances. So they are more sedentary. Maybe it's because of depression. We'll not talk about it right now, but we know that people after CVA become more sedentary lifestyle. So while you become more sedentary, you have more secondary complications, such as cardiovascular disease, but also diabetes. And if you're not depressed, it's also a risk factor for depression. Depression can be also a secondary complication to stroke. And the third thing, which is, I think, one of the most important thing and why people do physical exercise, want to do exercise after CVA, is improving the quality of life. Because a chronic neurological illness or disorder can affect hardly the quality of your life. It can affect it very bad. And in order to maintain your quality of life, or even, yes, even to improve your quality of life. So exercise is a tool for that. And many times after people go out of rehabilitation centers, we can see them deteriorating when they don't do exercise. And deteriorating means even their cognition deteriorates. Even the secondary complications are starting to appear very fast. Sedentary lifestyle is taking over, and then the quality of life goes down. We have a lot of research about QOL questionnaires about people after CVA telling about how exactly the CVA affected their lifestyle. So when a neurological illness become chronic, when it's not the acute phase anymore, it can affect your quality of life and it can even deteriorate. So when exercise is a way to improve your neurological impairment in the acute phase, but it's also a way to prevent deterioration and secondary complications and improve your quality of life or maintain your quality of life when it's a chronic neurological state or illness. So if you want to join my course, you can just write me here or at my website, rotemsoll.co.il, or you can find me at Instagram at Rotem Pelvic Floor. Ciao, see you.